Have you noticed how the left has sort of like monopolized the minority vote, and yet minorities, the situation of minorities is not improving? You see this in urban centers where the minorities are the dominant demographic in the big cities in the Western democracies. And these minorities, they all tend to vote in bloc. They all tend to vote 90% for the left-wing parties, right? And so the left-wing parties dominate these urban centers, and yet these urban centers are pigsties in some cases, right? They're complete disasters. And they certainly do not help the minority population. On the contrary, it's like in these great urban centers, things are getting worse all the time. This isn't an accident. This is not an accident. The left learned a lesson from supporting the working class, and more to the point, the left learned the lesson that if they actually help a group of people who politically supports them, that group of people will eventually betray them, like the working classes did. See, the working classes, they used to vote for the left. The poor working classes, the factory workers and whatnot, they used to vote en bloc for the left-wing parties. And what happened? As the economy improved, as the pay of the working classes improved, they started becoming more and more conservative. Of course, because see, if you have absolutely nothing, right? You have $0 in your bank account, you're flat broke. Of course you don't care if somebody else is taxed, because it's not going to affect you, because you don't have anything to tax, right? So if you're poor, if you're flat broke, you're like, sure, tax the rich, I don't care. Tax the middle classes, I don't care. But once you become middle class, and more to the point, once you see that your children could potentially rise up into the upper middle classes or even the upper classes, they might even become wealthy, you might even become wealthy, well, then you don't want to pay that much tax now, do you? You become a lot more conservative. You become a lot more conservative naturally, and it's not just an issue of taxation, it's an issue of conservatism overall, because if things are going good for you, you don't want to rock the boat, you want to keep on going good, right? Yeah! And that's what happened to the working classes in the 20th century, especially the late 20th century, starting with the deregulation of the economies in the very late 70s, early 80s, under Margaret Thatcher and Francois Mitterrand and Ronald Reagan. See, the working classes started to rise up, they started to make more money. And of course they became more conservative and they started voting conservative. Back before 1979, back in the mid-70s and earlier, the idea of a conservative government controlling any one of the big Western democracies was considered absurd. Everybody knew that conservatism was sort of like dead. But as the economies improved because of deregulation, as more people became wealthier, they became more conservative. As the working classes started doing better, they became more conservative. And they abandoned the left-wing parties. And the left-wing parties never forgot that lesson. Oh no, they never did. Because they saw it. They lived through it. They saw how election after election would be lost because the working classes, their former allies, well, they become more conservative because their lot was better. The situation of the working classes, by improving, by actually fulfilling the dreams that so many left-wing politicians had dangled in front of them, right? They abandoned the left-wing parties. And the left-wing never forgot that, never forgave the working class this betrayal. Oh no. The left-wing parties tried to adjust, especially during the 90s with Tony Blair and Bill Clinton. They essentially pivoted and basically